For over a decade now, the iPhone has basically looked the same, with no major visual change since 2013. Well, this year, with iOS 18, that is all about to change, as Apple readies their biggest update in iPhone history with major new AI features, a completely revamped Siri, and an overhaul of the entire visual aesthetic of the iPhone. And I could not be more excited because we now know what direction Apple is taking it. See, for the past decade, we've had this simple design language that Apple first introduced with iOS 7. It's actually wild to look back at my first video I ever made on iOS 7 when I had like no subscribers, and it was the first year I ever did YouTube, because I think people forget just how controversial iOS 7 was when it came out. Because overnight, Apple got rid of skeuomorphism, which was the previous iOS 1 through 6 design language. It had a lot of details and shading everywhere, and it had character throughout the entire operating system. But then comes iOS 7, where Apple simplified everything down. They ushered in a new era of flat design, and they were one of the first major tech companies in the industry to do this. Things were now composed of simpler shapes. There wasn't as much stuff on the screen at once, and everything just got super bright and white. It was a shock to update your iPhone and see this. Which leads us to today, right? We've sort of built off of iOS 7. There have been improvements over the years. Apple has definitely made it feel better in 2024 than it did back in 2013. But fundamentally, flat design is what has guided the iPhone. So what's coming next? Well, according to a new report from the verifier, it's going to look like Vision OS. Apple is planning to introduce a ton of blur, depth, and shadows back to the iPhone with iOS 18, with heavy inspiration from the brand new Vision OS software. The software that runs on Apple's $3,500 Vision Pro headset, which you can feel however you want about, but if there's one thing that that product nailed, I will stand by the fact that it is the software. And to be clear, this isn't just going to be a small visual update for iOS 18. We're hearing that Apple will be implementing this Vision OS style around the entire iPhone. Menus will have an added layer of blur that they just don't have now, similar to the Apple TV app does on the current Apple TV. Maybe the iPhone will finally be getting circular icons, just as Apple already uses on the Apple Watch and on Apple Vision Pro. And if Vision OS tells me anything, it means iOS 18 is going to feel lively and meaningful again. I just feel like flat design is quite literally fallen flat over the past decade, and I could not be more ready for something new like Vision OS on the iPhone. Now, if you're wondering why Vision OS, why is Apple doing this aesthetic versus something unique to the iPhone? I personally think it has to do with Apple's vision for all of their product lines in general. See, internally, we've been hearing reports for years now that Apple sees this vision set of products and augmented reality as their future, as something that is bigger than the iPhone one day. How does Apple do this? Well, I think there's a lot to be said about familiarity, something that does not really exist at all for Apple's Vision headset right now. Imagine a few years down the road when iOS 18 has fully adopted this design language, you throw one of these on and it just kind of feels like your iPhone. It doesn't feel like something all that unfamiliar or foreign. Here's the thing about iOS 18 though. The way it looks is just the start of what Apple's doing with this update, because Apple themselves confirmed that the biggest change coming in iOS 18 is going to be some major advancements with AI and new features there. Yeah, I couldn't believe this. On Apple's last earnings call, they straight up said later this year, we are going to share what we've been working on for AI, which they have almost never done in the history of the company. Apple is super secretive. They don't like to share what they're working on, and I think the fact that they previewed this was not only to make investors reassured that because Apple's been quiet about AI, there is something big coming. I really think it's because there actually is some big stuff coming. And we've heard it from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman what some of these new AI features are going to look like. First up, some major updates to Spotlight Search. Right now, when you swipe down to search for things on your phone, it's pretty general. It can do basic calculations, but all of the information is pretty surface level. Well, in iOS 18, the new AI will be able to answer more specific questions than it can currently, and it can even reach into specific parts of applications and grab data from there and present it to you as a user without entering that app. Next, in Apple Music, AI will be able to automatically generate playlists, maybe something more curated to your taste, and I hope this means, fingers crossed, that the recommendation algorithm for Apple Music is also about to get a massive upgrade. But the most interesting AI features to me are the ones that are supposed to make you more productive, and I imagine these being super useful, especially on iPadOS 18. If you're working on a Word document in Pages, for example, AI will be able to help auto-generate text and write for you. Or if you're working on a keynote presentation, AI will help you build out your slide deck. And while this part hasn't been rumored, I can easily imagine how drawing, sketching, taking notes, and on the iPad would be made even better with AI in iPadOS 18, especially if you combine that drawing with the new Paper-like 2.1, which is a screen protector for your iPad that makes it feel just like paper. And yes, they sponsored this part of the video. I've been rocking the latest Paper-like 2.1, which has the same great resistance and the papery feel as the Paper-like 2, but this one has improved clarity and visibility when you're using it. This is thanks to new composite materials and even better nanodots distribution throughout the screen protector, and the nanodots are the secret sauce, the tech that Paper-like is built in here. They're small microbeads, essentially the thing that makes the Paper-like feel like paper. And with an expert-backed development process and Swiss-based manufacturing, the Paper-like 2.1 is the best drawing experience that I've ever had on my iPad to date. And right now, you can check out the Paper-like 2.1 by clicking the link down below in the description. A huge thank you to Paper-like for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, let's continue on with the rest of iOS 18. There is so much to talk about. Now, moving on from that, Apple's also planning some new AI features inside of the Messages app, including the ability to, quote, field questions and autocomplete sentences. And to me, this sounds like an extension of the AI features that Apple already has built into Messages, and specifically typing, which was one of the key areas they touted AI advancements for, with actually a new feature in iOS 17 back in 2023. And on top of that, the Messages app in iOS 18 is also said to include RCS text messaging support, which will allow you to get read receipts and typing indicators with your friends on Android, as Apple finally phases out the classic SMS and MMS text that we've had since 2008. Now, productivity, spotlight search, and some fun stuff in Apple Music, that's just a taste of the AI features, and that's what's leaked that we've heard about. But the actual big AI upgrade for iOS 18, the one that I genuinely will not believe until I see it, is one for Siri. I mean, I don't really know what to say here. I think for the past decade, I've told you guys every year that Siri is about to get better. So you don't really need to believe me, because I have been gaslit by Apple every year for the past decade. But we have seen so much reporting from a number of different sources that actually, for real this time though, Siri is not even going to be recognizable for how it exists currently. Because Siri is getting a complete overhaul with generative AI features in what sounds like an Apple or Siri GPT type way. Right now, we're hearing this new version of Siri described as the ultimate virtual assistant. With the new AI in iOS 18, Siri will have more natural conversational abilities. It will be user personalized, with Siri knowing specific context about you, and maybe the coolest and the most Apple feature of them all. If you start a conversation with Siri on your iPhone and you ask about something specific, you can go over to your Apple Vision Pro or your iPad or your MacBook, and Siri will know that you had that conversation on your iPhone and remember context quickly when you pick up there, because it's Apple and it all works together in the same ecosystem. And listen, again, if it were not for the crazy advancements for AI throughout the entire industry, I wouldn't believe any of this, but it really does feel like, with all these massive publications like Bloomberg, The Information, saying Siri is getting a big upgrade, that Siri will actually be getting a big upgrade. And I guarantee that this new version of Siri is also going to tie into Apple Health in some meaningful way, because we've also seen some reports that Apple is working on an AI-powered health and wellness coaching service. Yeah, sounding like a new subscription service on the iPhone that is going to help you eat and sleep better, and also monitor your workouts, and it sounds like sort of give advice as to how you could work out even better. And with Apple so focused on health and wellness in recent years, this makes a ton of sense to me. I just wonder how this would work. Like, if I am really bad at my sleep schedule like I am right now, is it going to be like, you're up till 4 a.m. again, you little bitch, get the fuck to bed? I mean, I doubt Apple would use profanity like that, but it would be pretty funny, and I'd be pretty motivated by that myself. And I know the AI features so far have been pretty user-focused for actually using your iPhone, but if you're a developer, Apple's planning big AI improvements here as well, with a new version of Xcode powered by AI that can help you write code more efficiently by auto-completing things, giving you blocks of code more readily available, very similar to what Microsoft has done with their Copilot software for developing apps for their systems. Okay, iOS 18 going to be a big update, but when is it actually releasing? Well, per usual, Apple's going to be holding their developers conference in June, and that is when iOS 18 will become available in beta form, first to developers, and then with a public beta probably following in July of 2024. As for the public release, that's going to be timed up with the iPhone 16s coming out in September, so look for iOS 18 to drop for everybody around then, which all things considered really isn't that far away for Apple's biggest iPhone update ever. ever. I feel like I threw a lot at you. I've got one little tidbit, one last fun thing before we wrap up, and that is a little sneak peek at the new iPhone 16 that is already leaked in a little piece of iOS 18 that's been floating around. According to Mac Rumors, a version of iOS 18 confirms that Apple is releasing 4 new iPhone models this year, which is the same number they've released for a number of years now, but it's cool to get a little sneak preview into what Apple will be dropping this fall. And if you're curious about the iPhone 16, you want to learn more, well, check out my next video or the video after, or check out the one I made already about the iPhone 16 Pro, as Apple has some fun stuff planned there as well. I am going to keep you guys updated on iOS 18 non-stop until this comes out because I am so excited for this. So make sure you hit subscribe in case you haven't already, and drop a like if you enjoyed this video because it does really help me out, and I would appreciate that. Man, I feel like a kid again. I feel like I'm that high schooler that was first talking about iOS 7 in 2013. That was so excited because it was my first Apple event ever on YouTube. And it's kind of wild that I feel just as excited. We haven't even seen it yet. We haven't even seen the redesign. But I can feel it in my bones. It's happening. Thank you guys for watching. Love all of you so much. And I will catch you in my next video, which is also going to be a banger. Bye-bye.